Hello everybody, Absolutely Absurd here, and today I'm going to be presenting a tier list purely based on math and tournament results that showcases the strength of every character in Tekken 8 over the course of Season 1. There are timestamps below if you want to skip the explanation for how the point system works and want to get straight into the tier list results, but if not, let's not delay this ranking any longer and get right into the criteria. The data is based purely on the Tekken World Tour. Obviously, there are way too many tournaments to realistically gather all of the data in time for the end of the year. Thus, I restricted my search to just Master and Masters Plus events. Those events will be displayed on screen. Starting from Season 2 of Tekken 8 and onward, I do plan on also including Challenger events into this calculation, as I now have a system in place to run the numbers much faster. And I plan to release math recap videos for every Tekken World Tour event, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss them. Points are given based on the lowest qualifying placement plus 1, minus the character's placement. Placements are valued based on the Tekken World Tour guidelines. Since the Tekken World Tour awards points to the top 49 for Masters events and top 193 for Masters Plus events, my data will do the same. So, my data will award points out to the top 49 for Masters events. However, since some of the data I could find only went out to top 33, I made it consistent and cut off the search at 33rd for Masters events. For Masters Plus, I went as far back as I could while also collecting character data all the way up to 193rd. In plain English, this just means that if I get first in the Masters tournament using this point system, I'll get 49 points, and first in the Masters Plus tournament will get me 193 points. Second will get me 48 and 192. Third will get me 47 and 191, etc., etc. If a character is picked at any point, they are credited for that player's highest placement. For example, in one of the tournaments, Lowhigh picked both Dragunov and Steve. Since he did, wherever Lowhigh places, even if one of the characters was not used in the placement match, both Dragunov and Steve will be awarded the same points for Lowhigh's placement. Before I get into the review for each tournament, I do have a few disclaimers. 1. Some of the tournament data is missing. I don't believe it is enough to really affect the end results in a meaningful way, as most of the missing data is in the lowest qualifying placements, which is why this data is still being presented. Some of the characters towards the middle or the bottom of the tier list might move around 1 or 2 spots, but it's mostly unchanged. All of the missing data and the sources used will be linked in the description below. If you are able to fill in any of the missing data, or I was just stupid and I misinterpreted some of the data that I have, please comment below. The point system greatly prioritizes a combination of high and consistent placements. The goal of this ranking is to rank character strength, not player strength, and the point system is designed to reflect that. After all, which is a greater indication of character strength? A character getting first place, or a character getting second, third, fourth, and seventh? And yes, that is foreshadowing. Lastly, data is meant to be interpreted and means nothing without proper context applied to it. Use this data to inform your opinion on the cast. Don't let it just be your opinion without thinking twice. The spreadsheet used to track this data and the sources used will be linked in the description. If you want a full explanation as to how the spreadsheet works, let me know in the comment section below, and I will make a video explaining how the data is compiled together. With all of that out of the way, we can now get into our mathematical tier list for the course of Season 1. Panda has the least amount of points out of any eligible character, with 114. To put that number in perspective, characters such as Jack 8, Dragunov, Shaheen, Steve, Victor, and many more have gotten more points in a single tournament. To put it even further in perspective, I wasn't even able to find any Tekken World Tour footage of Panda being played, which is why I'm using footage from Tekken Replays Telly. Their channel will be linked in the description. Now, I don't believe this is due to Panda being weak, but more so because Panda is an exclusively worse version of Kuma, causing Panda's competitive viability to be the least out of any character in the roster. There was never a time where Panda placed higher than Kuma, or where Panda was present and Kuma wasn't. Lidia is the only other character in the D tier, which makes sense since she was the last character released in time for a Masters event. However, a closer look at the results shows that Lidia might be much stronger than we believe, with a total of 318 points gained in a short amount of time. Only 11 characters were crowned as champions for Masters events, and Lidia was one of them, taking home the trophy for Punishment 3, piloted by Mishima. She also placed in the top 8 at Emirates Showdown, piloted by Tetsu, alongside Claudio. This character is definitely stronger than the D tier, but she'll have to show that in the next season. The next few tiers I want to talk about as a group. This tier, the C tier, includes Leroy with 685 points, Asuka with 703 points, and Raven with 941 points. All characters we expected to be at the bottom. However, there is one character I want to specifically point out, as I think the numbers suggest that this character is the worst character in the game, being Paul Phoenix, who took home only 551 points. To me, this suggests that Paul is the worst character in the game at a tournament level. Unlike Panda, who is overshadowed by Kuma, and Lidia, who only had 4 Masters events to prove herself, Paul has no excuse, being available from the start of the season and having no direct upgraded version of himself. His highest placement was 17th at Evo, and I think this was due to me carrying Paul to a high placement. Outside of that, we haven't seen him past 33rd. This character might be due for some buffs. Here are the characters in C+ tier and their total points. There are a few characters I want to specifically mention, however. Yoshimitsu is a prime example of character strength, not necessarily translating to tournament viability, and the importance of timing. Yoshimitsu is, at the time of this recording, an undisputed top 3 character in the game. However, he wasn't discovered as a threat until the last few months. Additionally, while Yoshimitsu is very strong, the character is very complicated. From the perspective of a tournament player, it makes more sense to rely on your years of experience with your main character, rather than switch to a character that's somewhat complicated. Interestingly, Alisa is quite the opposite. Despite having a similar amount of points, she was strong throughout the majority of Season 1, and also was thought of as a very easy character. Unlike Yoshimitsu, however, Alisa has seen success, as she's the champion of Battle Arena Melbourne alongside Zafina, piloted by Chanel. To close out the C+ tier, I'd like to comment on the 2 Mishimas, Kazuya and Deviljin, who only saw success because of highly skilled pilots. Kazuya saw next to no usage until the 1.05 balance patch. From CEO onwards, Kazuya's highest qualifying placement was always Keisuke, who's responsible for 28% of all of Kazuya's points. Even more impressive is Kudan's, who basically is Deviljin, being responsible for roughly 45% of Deviljin's points. The B tier mostly makes sense, with the exception of 2 characters, so I want to go ahead and talk about these 2. It may seem odd that Nina is so low, despite being a consensus top 3 pick and having a win in a Masters Plus event. However, it is important to remember that this is about the entirety of the seasons, and overall, while Nina has good placements, she never dominated an event, unlike the second character I want to highlight, Shaheen. Shaheen had the most points in a single Masters event at the Mix-Up 2024, who took home 200 points in a single event. To put that in perspective, here's a tier list to visually represent Shaheen's dominance at the Mix-Up. I know, he was literally in a tier of his own in that tournament, but for Season 1, as a whole, he was just above average. Here are the A tier characters and their total points. We have officially entered the top 10. These characters were consistently some of the strongest picks throughout the entire season, with the exception of Azucena, with 68% of her points coming from Evo Japan 2024 alone. If you take her average points earned and exclude Masters Plus events, she goes from being 9th best to 9th from the bottom, averaging less points than characters such as Raven, Deviljin, and Lars. Now that we have arrived at our top 5, I will discuss each character individually, starting with the 5th strongest character of Season 1, Hwoarang, who took home 2,634 points, and was in the top 5 most points earned in 3 different tournaments, being Evo Japan, Paradise Game Battle, and Punishment 3. While the Yoshimitsu down players have gained ammunition, Hwoarang down players are getting exposed with this one. In 4th place we have Reina, with 2,665 points. Combo Breaker, Battle Arena Melbourne, and Evo USA were all dominant showings for Reina, as she proves herself to be the strongest Mishima at a competitive level. And in 3rd place we have Victor, with 2,978 points. Evo Japan, Super Tournament, Evo, Emirates Showdown, all very dominant showings for Victor, performing well throughout the entirety of Season 1, even after his throws were fixed and While Running 2 was nerfed. We have left the S tier and skipped past the S plus tier, as 2nd and 1st place are above the 3,001 to 3,500 range. In 2nd place we have Feng, claiming 3,695 points. dominating almost every tournament, having the top 5 most points earned in Evo Japan, where he claimed the most points, Paradise Game Battle, Battle Arena Melbourne, CEO, the Mix-Up, Evo, and Tiger Uppercut. This was a complete display of dominance throughout the entirety of the season, no matter what the patch notes tried to throw at him. However, it was not a complete display of dominance. That title would without a doubt go to our first place winner and the champion of Season 1. I think we all know who it is by now. First place belongs to Dragunov, claiming S++ tier, and the only character to break 4,000 points, with 4,139 points. A 3-time Masters Tournament champion, which is the most of any character, and taking home the most points earned in a single tournament 6 different times. Dragunov easily takes the crown for the most dominant character of Season 1. When people were making tier lists and putting Dragunov in a tier of his own, they weren't coping. In fact, they were spot on. Speaking of, here's the complete tier list of Season 1. It is fully ordered, and if you want the complete point order, it'll be in the description as well. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video for Season 2.